Howdy everyone. Recent discussion on Hobbins Hobbies Facebook group about cheap epoxy has inspired me to unleash some of my opinions and learnings over the years about this particular topic. And the fundamental thing that I have learnt over years of trying to use cheap products for simple jobs is that they don't always do what they say on the tin. Prime suspect is tubes of epoxy from your dollar shop, Poundland, $2 shop, that kind of thing. The tubes of 5-minute epoxy you get at those places are quite often not actually epoxy. They'll be a 2-part urethane glue, and the way you can tell is that it'll stink to high heaven. Horrible solvent smell. That's urethane glue. It's good for particular jobs, but it's not epoxy, and it doesn't really do a very good job for what we need. So don't bother with the tubes. I think this one might actually be okay, this particular brand, but most of the tubes are rubbish, so skip them. Syringes, however, are usually real epoxy. You can usually tell that the material is actually transparent, not white or cloudy. So this is a transparent, colorless, and a transparent amber colored thing. That is usually real 5-minute epoxy. It's not great, but it is cheap. It's convenient to keep in your flight box and works for repairs. So that stuff's okay. In the workshop, however, I have found that even the good stuff can be used in tiny quantities suitable for small jobs, and can be measured extremely accurately by weight with a $10 digital scale from AliExpress or Amazon or eBay or wherever else you want to get them from. They're pretty easy to get. So this is a 200-gram scale that measures in increments of 0.01 grams. It's not very accurate in that hundredth of a gram level, but it is pretty accurate in the tenth of a gram level, and that's enough to do what we need to do. So I start with one of those. I'll level it out again, and then I use these little plastic cups, which are usually $1 for 20 or something like that. They're not solvent resistant, but they're good for epoxy, and so start with one of those. After I've used them 10 or 15 or 100 times, they end up looking like that, full of all the different epoxy mixings over however long, years sometimes. All the different colors are in there, and you can actually chop that out and use that to make other things if you need to. It's interesting looking material, but one of the I don't know, privileges to the cheapskate is that even that 1 cent worth of plastic cup can be made to last years, and you just keep mixing on top of the old one. So when I talk about the good stuff, I'm talking about this Adhesive Technologies ADR240 and ADH28 hardener. So that's a New Zealand product. It is probably the same epoxy that's available in other countries, and you can probably look at the Adhesive Technologies website to find out exactly what it is, so whether it's a shell resin or a Norflex resin or something like that. A very similar product will be available in most countries. It's similar to West System, but better. It's a higher strength, more versatile product than West System, but it is pretty similar. So you can use West System for anything that you can use this for, but I prefer this one. The product is only available in a 4-litre thing, so you've got to buy quite a lot. It's about $80 New Zealand dollars for 4 litres, or was when I bought this, but it lasts and lasts and lasts, and it is so good to use that it's worth having. And if you're doing enough modelling that you're using fiberglass, carbon fibre, or anything like that, it's worth having. But the trick that I'm talking about here today is how we take a large volume like that and make it useful in a small volume. And the first part of that magic trick is a hand wash pump bottle. So once you're finished with your bathroom hand wash, clean it out, fill it up with the resin, and you can just pump out as much as you want, as little as half a gram. And there's no waste, it doesn't go off, and it's as accurate as you want it to be. So that's that part. The tricky part then is the hardener. The hardener is quite an aggressive solvent sort of laden thing, and it melts the inside of these bottles, and it crystallizes and goes wrong. So you can't put the hardener in the same hand pump. You can get pumps that work with those things. You can get ones that screw straight into those bottles, but when you're dealing with 0.5 gram at a time, these ones work better. So what I'm going to show you is how I go about that, and it's just not that hard. So we can recycle this bottle and make that last a long time, and you won't have to worry about mixing up 10 grams of resin and only using 1 gram of it, because you can mix 1 gram of resin and everything's going to be sweet. So let's mix a small amount of epoxy. We'll say 1 gram. 1 gram of resin, 1/4 gram of hardener, 4:1 ratio. So we've got our scales. We've got our recycled pot to mix it in. We've got a stick to mix it with. Put them all on the scale and zero it. So anything we add is counted. Here is our hand pump full of resin. Easy to measure out, near enough to 1 gram. Gentle squeeze is all it needs. 0.71, 0.83, 0.98, 1.00. Doesn't get a lot better than that. So obviously now if we get it up to 1.25, it'll be in near enough to perfect 4:1 ratio, and that only takes drops. So the stick is as good of a dropper as any. Just dip it in 1 drop at a time. It's slow going, but you want it to be accurate. You can touch it on a place where there's not resin to speed it up, and then put the stick on there and see what the total is. So that's 1.12. We're halfway there. .24. It isn't going to get any better than that. So there we go. That is now perfectly measured. 1.24 grams at a 4:1 ratio, in about the same time as it would take to get the cheap stuff out, and at a fraction of the cost. So if you're spending, let's say, $2 for 24 grams of crappy 5-minute epoxy, this compares very, very favorably at about, I don't know, 5 cents for the same 5 cents per gram by comparison. Much stronger, much high performance material. Mix in your micro balloons or your graphite powder, or just use it as it is. Thin it, mold it, glue it, whatever. So this is why I don't use those anymore. Don't need to. I just got the calculator out and measured, calculated the actual cost of each of these products. So using the scales to do ADR 240 costs 1.7 cents per gram for that little bit of epoxy there, whereas using the cheapest, nastiest 5-minute epoxy you can get cost 8.5 cents per gram at the very least. It's probably twice that now. So you can see that it's cost effective. It's definitely performance effective. It's time effective. It's good.